So clavicle fractures, as we all know, is one of the very commonest fracture occurring in the upper limb, and it constitutes around 2.6 to 5% of all fractures, and it constitutes about 35 to 45% of shoulder girdle injuries. And the most common site is the mid-shaft clavicle fractures. Since it is an interactive session, I would like to cover the topics in these various agendas, like site of the lesion, whether you have to go for operative or non-operative, and if operative, what is the treatment modality that is available along with the literature review. So coming to the site of the lesion or site of the fracture. See, taking for this example, you could see there's a two type of fracture. One is the lateral end of fracture clavicle, and there's a mid clavicle with a displacement. This is the same bone, a fracturing occurring at two levels. So I would like to ask any audience or any volunteer, do they behave similarly, or what else do you expect from these type of injuries when you see an X-ray? Anyone? Anything specifically you have to look for in this, because these both are the same fracture. You have a lateral end fracture, and you have this lateral end fracture clavicle, and this is a mid shaft. What is the most important thing that will strike in your mind? Yeah, that since you are an acromic clavicular specialist, I think you are told. So always in a lateral clavicular, because they don't behave similarly, here the coracoclavicular ligaments are intact, and here the coracoclavicular ligaments are disrupted. This things makes your surgical treatment entirely different. So in a lateral of clavicle, one should always suspect for this coracoclavicular ligament disruption. And when you suspect that, then you have to go in for additional coracoclavicular fixation. This is the first point I want to stress whenever you see a lateral of clavicle fracture, because even in my experience, just I have fixed with the lateral of clavicle. To my surprise, I didn't do any coracoclavicular fixation, and after 3 weeks, the acromic clavicle is dislocated. So that means there is a coracoclavicular disruption which could have been dealt with. So I think in everybody orthopedic surgical practice, you would like to have all these types of various patterns of clavicle fractures. So this one is a pediatric clavicle fracture, an adult fracture with a non-displaced clavicle, here a displaced fracture with a cortical contact, and a displaced fracture with no cortical. So all pediatric and various research articles has also come to the conclusion that even in a displaced fractures, whether it is displaced or undisplaced fractures, a pediatric clavicle fractures can be very well treated conservatively, either with the brace, and the results are good. And even they have suggested that there is no need for X-rays, follow-up X-rays. Every 2 or 3 weeks, there is no need to take an X-rays unless otherwise the parents are anxious. Scientifically speaking, there is no need for any X-rays. So, but certain cases, particularly in adolescents, and this is also whenever there is an adolescent patient who are not ready to accept the cosmetic deformity. So even then we state to the patient that conservative treatment holds good, they'll take X-ray, they'll go for all window shopping, and one surgeon will say that it needs fixation. So whenever there's a displaced fractures in an adolescent age group, and the patients are insisting surgery that you should bring everything into alignment, then it is better to go for a elastic nail, because this is least invasive. You can do it as a simple procedure, and it gives a very good results, but it's also cosmetically much better. So one such case, an adolescent displaced fractures, this can be really treated conservatively if the patient is ready to accept the mild cosmetic deformity that occurs following conservative treatment. If they're not accepting deformity, then you can choose a tense nailing, which is a less invasive procedure. And coming to this scenario, I think most of us would like to face in our scenario a displaced fracture with a cortical contact. So what should we do? Should we treat conservatively, or should we go for a surgical treatment? So what does the literature says that most of the fractures, when they have a cortical contact, they heal on even uneventfully at the end of 3 months post-injury, except for a malunion, the functional results are excellent. So in a patient like this, it is better to go for a conservative treatment. That is what that has been traditionally taught to us, non-operative treatment for clavicle fractures with immobilization. I don't say it's immobilization, support with a arm sling or a brace. Over a period of 3 to 6 to 8 weeks, they go for a very good healing, and the results are excellent. And comparing the sling versus this clavicle brace. There is not much of difference in this randomized control. Both are equally good. In fact, the simple sling has a less discomfort, and the results and functional and the cosmetical results are identical in both the group. So in a displaced fractures with a cortical contact, it is better to go for a conservative treatment if the patient is ready to accept the mild cosmetic deformity. But this doesn't hold good for all fractures, as there is a new evidence that the outcome of non-operative management of displaced fractures is not as good as traditionally thought, with many patients having significant functional problems. And as you could see, the strength of the injured shoulder is significantly reduced in all ranges of movements, and the mean dash score is also significantly reduced in a conservatively treated fractures, and hence there is a changing trend in the management of displaced mid-shaft clavicle fractures. Traditionally, we have been taught, though in our student period, we have been taught that conservative treatment gives a very good results, as the chances of non-union is very, very minimum. All these studies has come before 1970s. In those studies, they say that the incidence of the non-union is very, very minimal. They say less than 1%. But the recent studies, they show a mixed report, and all the studies after 1980s, they say that there is a higher rate of non-union, as high as 15%, and the unsatisfactory patient outcome with the conservative treatment fracture is around 32%. So these are all the changing trends, and we have to live with the changing trend. So in a fracture like this, where it's a gross displacement is there, or a severely committed fractures, here you can see 4 pieces of bone. So in such a fractures, what we have been traditionally thought doesn't work well. That is traditional conservative treatment. So we have to go for other modalities, that is the surgical treatment. So surgery definitely holds good for this patient, giving a better results. So what is the criteria to choose in a displaced fractures? So whenever there is a displacement without any bony contact, and especially in commuted fractures or a female gender, or the displacement is more than, there is shortening of more than 2 centimeters, all these have, and all the literature supports that whenever there is shortening of more than 2 centimeters with these following criteria, then they have high chances of non-union and a poor results with the conservative. So all these fractures need to be treated surgically. So overall we can come to, but there is a contradictory review in this Cochrane base. They have done a systematic review comparing the surgical versus conservative treatment for treatment of mid-third fractures, study in the 2021. And the authors has concluded that there is a low quality evidence that surgical treatment has any additional benefits in terms of function, pain, or quality of life compared with conservative treatment. And they have concluded that the treatment options must be chosen as an individual. So what is the demand of the individual? Whether the patient wants to go back to his work immediately, or whether the patient is ready to accept the cosmetic. So it is predominantly an individual based treatment, and it has to be given a relative benefits of and harms of each treatment, but it has to be discussed with the patient, and then you go for a appropriate treatment. So this is what they have concluded in this final review. So with this, I think we would say that the absolute indications for treatment of surgical treatment of clavicle fracture is whenever there is an open fractures, or when there is a neurovascular compromise. All these patients has to be treated absolutely with surgery. All other things are relative indications. Whenever there is a widely displaced fractures, whenever there is a multiple trauma, distal third fractures, floating shoulder, cosmetic deformity, and the early return to, all these are relative indications of surgical management. In a surgery, you have 2 options. One is your intramedullary nailing, another one is your plating. So comparing these treatment modalities, this systematic review also has found that there is no difference between these treatment modalities. Both gives good results equally, and low quality of evidence to suggest one treatment over the other. So I think most of us in this, how many of you do plating in this forum? So just, how many of you do tense nail? So yeah, very few. So almost 60% they do a plating. So because plating gives a better results, the advantage is that we have an early mobilization, a better pain relief, and various surgical approaches, either superior approach can be used, or now recently they have suggested an anterior approach and keeping a plate in the anteroinferior, thereby the plate irritation is less with the anteroinferior approaches. And of late, MIPO is also being suggested. One paper says that MIPO has a better results, but it is quite technically demanding procedure. Just to incision proximal and distal, similar to any other MIPO, clavicle is also being treated by MIPO. And inferior plating, as I said, is also the lower risk of hardware prominence. This is how I do a plate fixation. What I would like to suggest here is try to be as minimum as possible. Try to do a minimum soft tissue dissection. This is what I say, which is very, very crucial, because the first literature, what I said in that is the improper surgery leads to a high non-union rate. So in those days, the dissection rate or the dissection of soft tissue was enormous, and they trying to strip lot of periosteum. Definitely that go for a non-union. So whatever the amount of place where you are going to plate, other soft tissues has to be intact. Try to use minimum instruments like point reduction clamps. Even if you achieve a minimum mal reduction, try to achieve it. Don't try to aim for a anatomical reduction. So you achieve for a stable reduction with the minimum periosteal stripping, your results will be very good. So don't try to use all these conventional clamps of plate holding clamps. This all removes all your soft tissues, thereby delayed healing, and non-union is common. Try to use minimum gadgets. And whenever doing a plating, I would like to say that even I have seen one of my colleagues has got into this problem of injury to the vascular structure. So the whenever for a medial end of clavicle, when you are going to put a screw here, you be aware. So while drilling, you try to be always aware that you are going to injure the neurovascular structure, and you be cautious and drill very, very cautiously. Never anywhere penetrate too long. That may injure a vein or an artery. And always you use the depth gauge, never put a lengthier screw. So we have done some plating. This is a displaced fractures, a plating done, and this has produced a good, excellent results. Another patient with the comminuted fractures, that has also given excellent results. And in those days, before the advent of all these pre-contoured locking plates, we used to do only with a reconstruction plate or a 1/3 tubular plate. But nowadays, this has become absolute. Please don't ever try this, as there is high chances of failure with these thin profile plates. In this journal, they have quoted the high chances. And another article saying dual plating is also can be suggested. One is the superior plate, another is the anterior plate, especially for a severely comminuted fractures. Can be really useful. Coming to the intramedullary fixation, various techniques like cannulated thread screws, elastic nails can also be used. And most of the times, we might need to go for a mini open reduction. Try to attempt 1 or 2 close reductions you are able to achieve. Don't waste time in close reduction. Try to do a mini open reduction. Try to use mini clamps and then achieve a reduction and then pass the nail, because that also gives equally good results. So this is one case, a displaced transverse fracture. TENS nails really have a better results in a transverse fractures, but in a comminuted fractures, we may not expect that much good results. So whenever there's a comminuted fracture, it's better to go for a plating. Whenever there's a transverse fractures, you can either choose a TENS or a plating, whichever the technique you are familiar. So another latest in the IJO, to avoid the prominence associated with the TENS nail, they have gone for a screwed nail. So screwed intramedullary nailing is the upcoming trend that is going to probably in future. This also gives a better stability. And one can also go for an intramedullary screw either with the 4 mm malleolar screw or with a 6.5 screws, depending upon the medullary canal. So coming to the distal 1/3, various methods like your K-wires, plate fixation, coracoclavicular fixation, all these things are available. And as I said, you should always look for the coracoclavicular ligamentous injury. And if there is a coracoclavicular ligamentous injury, then always go for a endo button along with the plate fixation. Here, I didn't do this. This is from one of my friends. They have done a plate fixation along with the endo button. So we have done only a hook plate. This gives a very good results if there is a very small fragments, and the complications are rare but potentially significant, including a fracture around the implant. One should be very careful not to produce a subacromial impingement and rotate cuff. So the take-home message for the clavicle fracture is conservative treatment is a choice, particularly in pediatric clavicle fractures. And the mid-third clavicle fracture, the treatment is based on the individual demands and their needs. And if chosen, and particularly for a comminuted fractures, I would like to prefer a plating. And TENS nail may be useful for transverse fractures and in adolescent fractures. And in a distal third fractures, don't forget to evaluate the coracoclavicular injury. And if there is a coracoclavicular injury, go for a coracoclavicular fixation in addition to your plating with. Thank you.